Thanks, guys. So I'd like to just quickly run through the format of today's session. So I will be interviewing Tom about different aspects of career advice. As Ingrid said, you can use the chat function during this webinar to post any additional questions or comments that you may have, and we'll do our very best to answer those as well. Once again, we'd like to spend 5 minutes at the end just to talk to you about IC graduate membership. Last of all, please ensure that you stay muted throughout this session and that your camera is switched off unless you are presenting. So if you want to raise a comment or a question at any point, please just use that chat facility. So I'd like to kick things off. Tom, can you hear me first of all?
I can. Hi, Paul. Hi, everyone.
Thanks. Great stuff. Thanks very much for joining us today, Tom. So let me just begin by telling you a little bit about Tom's background. So as I said, Tom's talent acquisition director for SNC-Lavalin, covering the Middle East, Asia Pacific and Africa. SNC-Lavalin are a global engineering and design company with over 50,000 employees around the world. The company is working with its clients to design the future world in the built environment, infrastructure, oil and gas and nuclear industries. They have a large footprint in the Middle East region with approximately 10,000 employees across the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar and Kuwait. Tom himself has been based in the UAE for the last 12 years, and over the last 6 years he's been working to attract the very best talent in that region to work at SNC-Lavalin. And this includes leading the company's talent acquisition strategy, planning the future workforce with the company's leadership team, and working with the company's learning and development team to design and deliver a graduate training program. So Tom, a very big welcome to today's session. Before we get into the more sort of practical advice, I think a good starting point really would be to ask you for your views on the current state of industry recruitment in the face, of course, of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think this is something that's going to be on a lot of people's minds at the moment. So it makes sense to start there. So if I could begin then by asking you how optimistic you are about industry recruitment, both now and in the aftermath of COVID-19.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, look, obviously a very relevant question given current circumstances. And, since March, from a recruitment perspective, we've seen a big drop off in terms of the number of requirements within SNC-Lavalin. But I'm pretty optimistic for the future because this is short term. We will get through the COVID-19 pandemic and we'll come back stronger as a company, as an industry and as a globe. So while we've seen job losses in the short term, we've seen projects put on hold by our clients, not just in the Middle East, but around the world. I think long term, within civil engineering, there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, we've got an industry that is going to be at the forefront of helping economies get back on track. So there's going to be a lot more investment in infrastructure projects moving forward around the world. So I'm optimistic there's going to be more opportunities. We're in a different world. For those people graduating, it's probably an exciting time to be joining the workforce, I think.
Yeah, indeed. So bottom line is, the world's still going to need civil engineers, right? So, in order to help recover from the current economic downturn. Just at this point, I'd just like to draw our viewers' attention as well to two recent news articles which have appeared on the ICE website. That's ice.org.uk, which concern the resilience, this question about resilience and the future prospects of the construction industry. One of them is entitled "Civil Engineering is More Important Than Ever." The other is "Industry Leaders Discuss the Positive Signs for the Built Environment." These articles, which cite a number of leading employers, detail how engineers will be needed to aid that global recovery. And what we can do is we can circulate the links to those stories after this webinar. And maybe my colleagues can copy the links into the chat facility as well so that you can find them. But I think, I think the kind of takeaway from this, Tom, is that it's a really competitive marketplace, and graduates need to give themselves that extra advantage, and we have a number of tips for how you can go about this. So let's move on to look at those now, and look at some of the key elements that will make you a highly employable graduate. And how do you really make yourself stand out from the crowd? So an obvious place to start, Tom, seems to be the CV. I think how you present your CV is clearly a very important starting point. So what tips do you have for people in that regard?
Well, as you can imagine, we see hundreds and hundreds of CVs on a daily basis. So it's really important that when you're writing your CV, it's very clear, it's very concise, and it has a consistent message in it. So there's some really important do's and don'ts in terms of what you should and shouldn't put in your CV. So just to give you a few pointers, I think, firstly, don't always rely on spell checker. We always use spell checker when we've finished typing a document of any sort, but it's worth rereading just to double check, because spell checker doesn't get everything right, and also getting it proofread by a family member or a friend, just so that they can give it a once over. Personally, English isn't my strongest point, whereas my wife used to be a copywriter, so I always get her to check any documents that I've typed. Always make sure that your CV is in one format of font and in black and white. Don't put multiple formats, don't have different colors, just black and white and one or two sizes of font. Don't overuse capital letters. I've seen that in some cases in the past. Please keep CV in the first person. If you have abbreviations in your CV, make sure you explain what those abbreviations are, because depending on who's looking at your CV, they might not understand what that abbreviation means. And be consistent in your style. So those I suppose are my main tips for a clear and concise CV.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Another topic which I think is maybe overlooked sometimes is the importance of networking. Could you tell us a little bit about networking, why it is so important to the industry?
Yeah, sure. I think networking is something that's always helped me personally in my career. We're all used to using social network platforms these days. It's a part of everyday life. But I think extending your network beyond social network platforms, meeting people face to face, developing networks at college, in the working environment and elsewhere is really critical for you guys to be able to develop and prolong your careers in the industry. We connect with people through so many channels these days, but personal connections in our industry will serve you throughout the duration of your career. So, before you start working, you should tell everyone family, friends, university professors, what sort of jobs you're looking for, and ask for introductions. Be bold about it. Do they know anyone that works in the field that you're looking to break into? Yeah, I think that's really, really important. It's a competitive marketplace. Making those connections could be leading you to your next job.
And sort of linked to this point is know your industry, know the industry that you're applying to. Why is that so important? Why is it so important to ensure that you've properly researched the industry in advance?
I think research throughout your life is really important to understand the topic you're talking about or the industry you're working in. University students, you're all used to having to do research as part of your student life, and that won't change once you get into the work environment. Those skills need to be put into action when you're searching for your first job. It's really important that you build your knowledge of your target industry. Once you know the location of where you want to work, you need to find out what companies, they might be public or private sector companies, exist in those locations. Your network can also help you with this, of course. once you've established which companies are of interest, you need to start finding out more information on those companies. Check out their careers page, search LinkedIn to see who's employed by those companies. How many people do they employ? What's their hiring process? If you can find out who are their competitors in the industry, how do they compare? Does anyone in your network know anyone who works there? Yeah, there's so much information at our fingertips these days. You need to make sure you're maximizing that.
Yep. Lots of good points there. I just want to add at this point that we are recording this session. We'll make this recording available to people afterwards. So just to ensure that you are able to capture all of these points. Tom, you've talked a lot in discussions that we've had about a candidate's unique selling point. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you think it's so important?
Yeah, I suppose early in my career, after graduating, I started in a sales role, which can be very challenging. You've got to set yourself apart from your competitors. So we were always trained about having something unique to say on the call when you were introducing yourself to a client. So a unique selling point is important to all of us when we're trying to set ourselves apart from the rest of the crowd when we're in the graduate market looking for a job. So that graduate market is competitive the world over. And while there are still good opportunities available for those people with strong academic backgrounds, employers will be looking for you people out there who can show their abilities in other areas. And in order to be noticed and set yourself apart from the crowd, you need a USP. So what have you done differently to other graduates? Maybe you've worked on a unique project at university, you've spent some time overseas, either to study or travel, or maybe you have a hobby outside of your study that sets you apart from others. Whatever that might be, you need to highlight that on your CV because you're not going to have work experience on your CV. So all of those other things you may feel that are insignificant are important to reflect on your CV that sets you apart from everyone else.
And thinking about the the current climate, Tom, with different parts of the world being in different states of lockdown over the previous few weeks, I think it's important. It's important that if you have been locked down or you've been furloughed or you have additional time on your hands, maybe ask yourself what you've done with this time and what did you do to upskill yourself? Because I'm assuming those are the kinds of things that recruiters will want to know.
Yes, I think one thing that recruiters don't want to see on someone's CV is idle time. So it's really important that you can articulate what you've done in periods where you may not have been working. What have you been doing to learn new skills? Or I think that's really critical.
Yeah. Okay, and moving on to interview stage. So let's say you've done your networking, you've got your CV in a good state, you've managed to get that interview. What are the most important interview preparation tips, Tom, that you can give?
Well, obviously, once you've applied for that job and you've got an interview, you need to make sure you do more thorough research on the company you're going to interview with. Find out as much as you can about that company. Google them, read their website, get familiar with the type of work they do and who they do it for. Have a look at some of the projects they've worked on before so you can bring that up in interview. Prepare questions for your interview. At some point during the interview, you'll be asked, do you have any questions for us? And I think for me, it's really important that anyone that we're interviewing has it shows you're prepared and you've really thought long and hard about coming into the interview. So be prepared and don't be scared to pull out a list of questions you've got in case you need a prompt. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think in terms of those questions, what's it like to work here is probably not a good question. You could say something like, I notice a lot of your work is focused on real estate. Do you worry about the economics of that sector? A more probing question. That could be the key to you getting a second interview. Just saying, sorry, I don't have any questions I think in these days you need to go the extra step, so that will really make the difference. I think in terms of more preparation, role playing is a really good opportunity to practice. Some of us cope better than others in interview stage. I know it can be nerve-wracking, so practice at home, practice with friends, practice with family. Get them involved so that they can help you talk through an interview scenario. I think those are some of the important things to consider when planning for your interview.
Yeah. So plenty of research, ask plenty of questions, ask good questions, practice. All good tips. So I also want to ask you, Tom, about the kind of skills that are most in demand in our sector at the moment. So obviously, the industry has the civil engineering and construction sector has been developing at a very fast pace in recent years. A lot of that has been driven by digital changes, digital technology, and transformation. Is there an advantage here for younger generations? How can younger engineers gain an advantage with their perhaps increased knowledge of digital technology and digital skills that maybe some of their older colleagues might be lacking?
I think this is a really exciting time to be a young engineer. We're in the middle of a digital revolution, and in my experience, the people that are struggling to adopt new technologies and advance are probably, older generations that are used to doing things a certain way. So I think this is a really exciting time to be coming into the civil engineering industry. Governments and private engineering companies are all adopting new digital technologies. We're talking on Microsoft Teams at the moment, which simply wasn't possible a few years ago. We've got an audience from around the world, and we're able to do this very easily and very quickly. So this is a fascinating time to be part of the industry, and I think the younger generations are able to learn and adopt these new technologies far quicker than older generations. So I think what's really important for everyone on the call is, if you don't know about digital technology and what impact it's having on the engineering industry at the moment, do your research. We're talking about BIM, building information management, digital twins, digital asset management. You should start researching all of these topics and learning as much as you can. I think the other great thing about the digital age is that there is such a plethora of information on the internet now. Personally, artificial intelligence and digital is having an impact on the HR industry. So for me, I need to start. I've started a course on a website called Udemy to learn about data science, because it's something that will enhance my career prospects in the future. So I think I would encourage you all to go away, research, have a look into digital technologies and how they're impacting the engineering industry. You can check out websites like Udemy, edx.org, Coursera, 3 great websites that offer lots of free training on digital technology and other areas as well.
Okay, just to concur with what Tom said there. I mean, there is an awful lot of material and resources that are available to ICE members as well through our website, through the virtual learning environment, through our virtual library on a whole raft of digital technologies and skills. So as students and graduates, do check those out, do familiarize yourself with those, and contact ICE staff if you have any further questions. Tom, I also wanted to ask you, because obviously we have student and graduate members from all parts of the world on this webinar. SNC-Lavalin are obviously a global employer with a global footprint. Are the kinds of things that employers such as yourselves are looking for in graduates, are they broadly the same across different parts of the world? Or is there more regional nuance involved?
Look, I suppose in broad terms, employers around the world are looking for similar traits when they're hiring graduates. I can't always talk about, cultural differences. I've been in the Middle East for 12 years, so I have a reasonable understanding of local cultures here, but I wouldn't say I would have the same understanding if I was hiring graduates in China, for example. But I think broadly we're all looking for similar skill set. A lot of those softer skills are really important, that when we're talking to graduates, that they are good communicators. They're able to deal with people from different walks of life, of different seniorities, no matter whether you're dealing with someone that's a graduate engineer or you're dealing with a CEO, someone that knows how to handle themselves. So I think broadly we're always looking for the similar skill sets. Of course, this comes back to you also having a USP, and having learned additional skills through activities outside of your studies is really important. But yeah, broadly we're looking for similar things, I'd say.
Okay. And if you're a new graduate in the marketplace, what's your advice to people about how picky should you be about the jobs that you apply for, the jobs that you interview for? Should you hold out for the perfect job, or adopt a more sort of flexible attitude? What's your advice on that?
It's a good question, and maybe that perfect job might not exist at this time, but your future is in your own hands, so you can create the perfect job in the future. The world is changing as we speak, faster than it ever has done. Well, it's certainly in my lifetime anyway. Companies at the moment are getting smaller and budgets are shrinking as well, so it's becoming challenging, and that perfect job may not exist for you at the moment. So that may not sound like good news. However, if you embrace that reality, you might not settle for a position that doesn't fulfill your potential. So you can create that perfect job for yourself as long as you don't wait for someone to give it to you. So I would encourage you all to be open, be flexible, and never say no. Speaking from my own personal experience, I'm not where I thought I would be 23 years after graduation, but I always kept a very open mind. And threw myself in at the deep end when an opportunity arose. And I think I've had a very fulfilling career because of that. So I just encourage you all to be very open, very flexible about where your career takes you, because you never know what might happen.
Yeah. So don't say no to opportunities.
Exactly.
Because you don't know where they're going to lead. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Some great advice there. I want to ask. I'm going to ask my colleague Ingrid at this point if we've had any more questions come in through the chat facility or offline.
Yes, indeed. So there's a question on the chat facility: which certification is best to take at the start of civil engineering career, like LEED, AP, RICS?
Okay. Did you catch that, Tom?
I did catch that. It's a difficult question to answer, really. I think probably the ICE may be able to guide you a bit more on that. I think in terms of accreditations, if we look at it from a graduate hiring perspective, we wouldn't necessarily have a preference one way or the other. As I mentioned to you earlier, I think it's the unique selling points and the other skills that you can bring to the table. Your accreditation may impact you further along in your career, but as a graduate, I don't think it's critical which route you go.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of choice out there, isn't there, depending on where you are in the world. I mean, certainly as ICE members, we'd hope that you would consider the ICE professional qualification route, and I know Patrick can give you some more details about that in a moment or two. And again, there's a whole load of information on our website about professional qualification routes. And ICE also partner with people like the Association of Project Managers as well, and the Chartered Management Institute, to offer various specialised routes, as well as the more traditional civil engineering chartered civil engineer route. Okay. Any other questions, Ingrid?
Yeah, we've got a couple of offline questions. So, what are the key software platforms students should be familiarising themselves with in order to get ahead of the game in today's civil engineering world?
Okay.
I'm not a technical expert, I have to admit. I'm a recruiter at the end of the day in an HR department, so I probably wouldn't be the best person to answer that question.
I mean, again, perhaps we can signpost some advice after this email, and we're going to circulate some links around, so maybe we can identify some options there.
I think as employers, we may use different technologies. So the software that's used at SNC Lavalin in civil engineering may not be the same that's used in some of our competitors or in the public sector.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, there's one more. How do you think industry requirements and key skills criteria will change following the pandemic?
Well, we touched on this earlier with the digital revolution. I think, key skills, people need to show that they are digitally adept. And I think probably, I mean, I've not been in university for a long time, but I'm sure part of your modules must touch on digital technology these days anyway. So I think for me, that's a critical skill that we'll be looking at. That's the future of all industries, to be honest with you. So I think that's probably the biggest one for me. The other key skills are the key skills that have never really changed in terms of the softer skills: communication, how to deal with people, collaboration, team working, integrity, or safety, all of those kind of things as well.
Okay, thank you. If we have had another couple have popped in. So thank you for your advice. Could you elaborate a bit on building your USP?
Okay. So unique selling point, it's about having something that sets you apart from the crowd. We have an online careers portal where applicants send in their CVs. Those CVs are reviewed by the recruitment function, and they may be looking at 50, 100 CVs throughout the week. So they need to see something in that CV that sets you apart from the crowd. And that's no easy task for sure when someone's looking at so many CVs. So your unique selling point needs to be something outside of what you've done in your day-to-day activities while you've been at university. What have you done differently? As I said earlier, it may be something that you think is not that relevant or important, but it shows that you've got an interest, or you're dynamic, and you don't do other things outside of your university studies. It could be something as simple as you've been traveling for 3 months. I mean, I went backpacking when I was younger, and I think that has laid a great foundation for me in terms of having a broad understanding of different cultures. That led me to coming to the Middle East. So anything that you've done outside of your studies that is unique to you, that you are passionate about, that you could talk about comfortably at an interview stage, is your USP.
Thank you.
I hope that makes sense.
That's great, thank you. Do we have time, Paul, for
I think we have a couple of minutes if there are more questions. Yep.
Yeah, there's another couple. So what minimum qualification are employers looking for these days? For example, graduate or postgraduate?
I suppose that really comes to where we're actually recruiting and what type of skill set we're looking for. Within early careers, we take on apprentices, we take on graduates. So the minimum qualifications would really depend on the type of role we're recruiting for. To give you an example, in the Middle East region in the last couple of years, we've taken on a lot of high school leavers in Oman and Saudi Arabia onto our construction sites. we've taken on diploma holders into technician roles, and we've hired graduates into our graduate program. So a real wide mixture, and I would say that that's the same for the Americas, Europe, and Asia Pac as well.
Great. There is one more.
Yeah, let's take one final question.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Is being a chartered engineer in the Middle East as valuable as for someone working in the UK, for example?
Absolutely, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. The amount of, this comes back to what I discussed earlier about networking. Having a network of other professionals that are chartered will lay the foundations for the rest of your career. So I think wherever you are in the world, really important to help you advance your career. Really important.
I mean, we often talk about the chartership, IC chartered qualification, as being a sort of global passport for civil engineers that will, that is widely recognised in most parts of the world, and will enable you to build that career and to open up all sorts of opportunities. So I'd highly encourage all of our student and graduate members to research that route and to look into that route.
Yeah.
But I think we've probably come to the end of question time now. So Tom, I want to thank you very much indeed for all of your advice there. Just to kind of summarize a couple of the points that Tom's made, give you a few sort of checklist of takeaways. Although the industry is suffering some short-term pain at the moment, the future does remain very bright for a civil engineering career. The world is always going to need engineers, and they're going to be crucial to the economic recovery. In terms of practical advice, sort your CV out, follow some basic rules that Tom's described. Network like mad, I think, is what I heard you say, Tom. That was research the industry, develop your unique selling point, and tell us, make sure that you prepare properly for the interview, develop those digital skills, and don't try to find that perfect. Don't hold out for that perfect job. Be flexible and don't say no to opportunities because you don't know where they're going to lead. I hope I've done some justice there, Tom.
No, that's great. I think my message, I suppose, for everyone is be bold and be brave. Go out there and find your perfect job. There are, as we said, there are going to be lots of opportunities out there. Engineers will always be needed. We're entering into a new world, it seems, and it's I believe there's a lot of optimism and it's exciting times ahead. So I thank you for inviting me onto the call. It's a pleasure to be here, and I wish all of you every success for your future careers.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much, Tom. We'd just like to spend the last 5 minutes now to tell you a little bit more about the IC graduate membership route. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Patrick Courtney now to tell you a little bit more about this. And this is particularly aimed at those final year students to help you understand how IC can support you during the next steps in your career. So Patrick, over to you.
Thank you, Paul. Hello. Today we're going to focus on becoming professionally qualified and why it's important for your career, how IC will support you throughout your career, and what to do next to progress towards professional qualification. So you've chosen a career in civil engineering. How can IC support you? As a civil engineer, what you will do each day will help to transform lives. As a member, we'll support you throughout your career and help you to realise your potential. You become part of our global community of more than 95,000 members in over 150 countries around the world. You'll have lots of opportunities to meet other members and learn from them at local IC events. You can access a wealth of knowledge, content and resources to help you develop as a civil engineer. We will support you to achieve professional qualification to demonstrate your status as an engineering technician, incorporated engineer or chartered engineer. This will all help you to develop, progress and have a successful career. One of the key reasons people join IC is to become professionally qualified, whether as an engineering technician, incorporated or chartered engineer. The letters EngTech, iEng or CEng after your name are a mark of excellence. They increase your professional status, they're really valued by employers, and will enhance your career prospects. They're internationally recognised, so could open up opportunities for you to work around the world. Many members gain a real sense of pride and personal fulfilment having achieved professional qualification. It helps them to be better civil engineers and rise to the challenge of shaping the world around them. Here is a summary of the key steps to achieving professional qualification. 1. Academic qualifications. Good news, you're already on the way to completing this step. Courses are accredited for different levels, EngTech, iEng, CEng. So use our course search tool to check your eligibility at ice.org.uk/course search. 2. Professional experience. You will also need to develop the skills, knowledge and practical experience required for professional qualification. ICE calls this your initial professional development. IPD. ICE and your employer will offer lots of support to help you on your journey to professional qualification as you record and assess the experience you gain. You'll also need to record all your learning and development activities. We call this Continuing Professional Development, CPD. Professional review. Once you've gained the skills, knowledge and experience, you need to complete your initial professional development. You'll need to pass a professional review. This includes a 15-minute presentation, a 1-hour interview with 2 experienced civil engineers or technicians. If you're applying for iEng or CEng, you'll also need to do a written exercise. We offer a range of support to help you get the experience and record it, whether that be through employee-approved training schemes, mentor-supported training. We also offer a system called IPD Online where you can record your experience. And we offer a range of mentoring opportunities, both formally and informally. So, as soon as you graduate, you should join ICE as a graduate member. Enroll on your company's approved ICE training scheme or mentor-supported training and register with IPD Online. Here's a quick overview of what else you get as a graduate member. As well as access to the ICE training scheme and mentor-supported training and IPD Online, you can access local events. Our local teams and volunteer members organise a host of events on a range of topics. These are a great chance to learn more from the industry and grow your network with other graduates and more experienced engineers. You can access New Civil Engineer Digital, which is a monthly industry-leading magazine, as well as Civil Engineering Journal, which is a flagship journal with articles on a range of civil engineering topics. We also have the ICE Learning Hub, which is an online portal with thousands of hours of knowledge content, which is exclusive for ICE members. So make sure you make the most of your graduate membership. I want to draw your attention to the fact that during the year which you complete your course, graduate membership of ICE is free. So if you're graduating this year, if you're completing your studies this year, then make sure you upgrade to ICE membership as soon as possible. There's a cut-off time of the 29th of September. So as soon as you complete your course, contact ICE. All you need to do is provide a letter from your university saying that you've completed your studies. You don't need to wait until you've got your official certificate. If you're still planning to study, we can also potentially help you to maintain your ICE student membership. So do contact us via the students@ice.org.uk email address. For those of you finishing your courses after the 29th of September, you may be eligible for a reduced graduate membership fee of £70.50. This reduction is available if your taxable income is less than £17,076 per year. Apply online via your My ICE account and select reduced subscription fee. As we've already mentioned, there's support around the world for our members. We've got local teams as well as volunteer representatives who support with membership queries and arrange networking and technical events and activities. There are lots of opportunities to access support and to get involved as part of our global community. You can find details of your local ICE contacts, events and membership support on our website. Go to ice.org.uk/near-you. So in summary, as soon as you graduate, apply online at ice.org.uk/graduates. Enroll on an ICE training scheme or mentor supported training and register with IPD Online. Get involved, make the most of your membership, come to events and meet other members, grow that network. and discover your USP. Thank you, and good luck with your journey to professional qualification. Keep the end goal in sight, and don't forget that support is always available. Back to you, Paul.
Thanks very much, Patrick. Ingrid, are there any final questions for Patrick on graduate membership routes?
No, nothing on the graduate membership routes, no.
All right. Well, in that case, sorry.
Sorry, I don't know if it's too late. We did get one last question just as we were closing off earlier. So if it's possible, we've got, what do you believe should be the #1 priority for any civil engineer to enter the international market professionally? What are the biggest challenges that you believe the world faces, and where can civil engineers help the people? So it's kind of 3 questions in one there.
Okay. Do we still have Tom on the line? Tom?
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Did you catch that last question?
I did, yes. Look, I certainly don't have all the answers to solve all the problems in the world, of which we've got a few at the moment. But I think civil engineers have a huge part to play in that in the future. As I said earlier, I think global economies are struggling at the moment, and one of the key ways for them to grow economies again is by expanding on their infrastructure, and that needs civil engineers. So I think opportunities will be out there for civil engineers for years to come as economies start to grow again. So I'm not sure if there was another point there I missed, Ingrid.
So the 3 parts to the question: what do you believe should be the #1 priority for any civil engineer to enter the international market professionally? And then the other parts were about the challenges and how civil engineers can help people.
I suppose in terms of the #1 priority for people entering any market, international, local, for their first role is getting the CV right, because that's the first time anyone's going to see you. Other than the network you've already developed, if you're applying for a role, the first thing someone's going to see is your CV. So if there's spelling mistakes, or there are grammatical errors, fonts in different sizes, or different fonts, different colors, those kinds of things put people off very quickly when they've got a lot of CVs to look at. So I would say probably that's the first thing. Get your CV right, take advice, research, get someone to edit it for you, and have a second look. Really important. Hope that helps.
Definitely, thank you.
That's great. We've actually come to the end of our allotted time now, so I'd like to thank all of you for joining us, but especially to thank Tom Elam from S&C Lavalin. Thank you, Tom.
Pleasure. Thank you for the invite.
Please remember that we're here to support all of our international members at any time. You can email us at iceinternational@ice.org.uk. If you are involved with an ICE student chapter, but you are not registered for student membership with the ICE, you're really missing out. It costs nothing. It takes 5 minutes to register online. So please make sure that you do so. For those of you in your final year of studies, we wish you good luck. Do be sure to become an ICE graduate member. As Patrick has mentioned already, remember that you can upgrade to graduate membership for free by registering before the 29th of September, once you've completed your course. And remember as well also to check out the reduced subscription rate for graduate membership. If you think that's applicable to you, do be sure to investigate it or to ask for more information. Thank you very much for joining us throughout this series. We do hope that you found all 3 of these webinars useful. As ever, you'll be able to access a recording of this webinar afterwards. We'll send you around, we'll email you a link with all the details. So, good luck with the exams if you have them. Enjoy your summer holidays if you have them. That's all for now. So thanks very much for joining. Please stay safe, and we'll see you again soon.